And we will now have a panel discussion on, of course, sustainable product design, and the overarching question will be from concept to end of life and back. Is sustainable product design more than we think?
Yeah, my super friendly colleagues are so kind to put the tables back on. Thank you very much for your support. And as you can see, the QR code is now moved up, so it's easier to scan. So we are very flexible and trying to adapt here. So please, again, if you have a direct question to someone, one panel member or to the panel in all, please scan the code and send in. It's not working right now. I'll have to start it. It's going to work in a minute. And we're looking forward to this discussion. Kai, the stage is yours again.
Thank you. And before we start to tackle this question, I would like to ask a couple of questions about the talks that you gave to just clarify a bit more the difference of the solutions that you proposed. And for example, you, Andre and Alessandro, you both presented digital solutions, digital presentations of physical products. And maybe you could explain what the differences are between. Maybe Andre, you could start, because your product is a bit more specific, while the DPP is a bit better known.
Yeah, you mentioned the difference is basically DPP will be applied for everybody, for every company, hopefully. And what we have, our solution is that the EPDs generated product group specific, right? We have differences, although this is also similarity, I guess. This is also defined in groups, but maybe we are going a bit more detailed. As I explained, we have right now 39 of the impact categories next to climate change. There are coming 38 as well. And this is probably way too much for doing it for every company, right? But we have focused on this, and as we believe that true sustainability needs more than 2, 3, 4 impacts, we extended our scope further and further and went in the detail. That was our aim. I guess the aim of the digital product passport is to have a standard for everybody. This is my view of this question.
Yeah, let me add something. Absolutely. I think there is a very clear difference. The digital product passport is a way or an instrument to display in a standardized manner and exchange information. But the information and the data inside the passport need to be typically calculated and determined at every step of the value chain. For this type of task, you need tools like the one that Andreas has shown, because this is what you need in order to feed data into the passport. What actually the initiative that I was describing before is doing is to define the architecture of the passport and standardizing the methodology to determine things. ChemX is not developing a passport itself. There will be companies, perhaps even also Siemens, which will developing digital product passport tools which can be used to exchange that information in a standardized fashion. And tools like Andreas, which can be used, employed to calculate the impact categories which go into the passport.
Okay, in every case, with both of these solutions, we have like container for a lot of data, a lot of information about the products. And yeah, I would like to ask you, Martin, as a certifier, wouldn't that really change your work if all the information is already there? And yeah, there's you could really automate your work, right?
Yes. We or my colleagues are already considering the product passport since I think 5 years. So in this generation of our requirement, we already require what you mentioned, I think, technical requirement, the QR code, which really must be specific for this model you buy. You buy this notebook, it has this QR code, you buy another one, so it really can be traceable to the model. So that's on the technical side. I think the other one you mentioned is the data requirements, right? So we have a lot of data because of the auditing, of the testing. We even know from which smelter and refiner, for example, the minerals are coming from. We are not at the mine yet, but we are smelter and refiners. This is as far as we can go now. And we have the data. And the advantage is we verify the data. So it's not a self-declaration, but we have high trust in the data. And we think that's important because we call it passport. And if something is in a passport, I think it's your name, your photo. I expect that this is really you and not some claim. And maybe my last one, also you mentioned in your great presentation, voluntary data. For example, the repair manual, the spare parts you mentioned in your slide, right? I took the note. And for us, this is not voluntary, it's mandatory. They must publish a repair manual for these models. So it's not you can publish, but you must. So I think that the difference, the product passport gives a transparency and a lot of data. But then when you are the buyer, you must decide for yourself which of these data is important to you and how you judge it. And does it lead to a purchase decision or you don't purchase decision? It's like you go to supermarket and you buy processed food. And there's a list of all these ingredients, a lot of, EE, whatever, chemicals. And that's transparency. But then you need to decide if you want to eat it. We had a discussion before about the processed food, I remember, right? So you need to make the judgment at the end. And I think this is where the label gives a certain direction. We say, this is what you minimum need to fulfill. You always can fulfill more. You can have 10% less electricity consumption than Energy Star, or 20%. You can be better, but this is the minimum we want to have. And what goes beyond that?
So I'm sorry, can I jump in here because you said something about the repair manual right now. And I think there's a question, how will a digital product passport help to repair a product and refurbish it?
Yeah, this is something that most likely is also coming. At least the regulated passports is coming from the end products, right? So let's take the example of an electric white good equipment, right? So a fridge or a washing machine. The digital product passport will, also the regulated ones, will require the company placing the product into the market to provide also information about how to repair that particular item or that particular model. It also, if it's a product which is subject to be dismantled in a remanufacturing loop, right? Then it will be should provide also information about how to dismantle appropriately that particular product. So even the regulated passport will require some item, at least some product, at least how to go into a R strategy. So how to go into a new life for that particular product or the component inside the product. So that's foreseen.
So I think the follow-up question here, which I'm jumping right in again, how can we force manufacturer to make products more repairable as long as they make more profit with short-lasting products? Maybe this could also be an interesting question for you, Martin.
You want me to answer?
Yes, please. So, love to.
So my colleagues try to consider everything where people try to find the exit or shortcut and not be that sustainable. So one thing is now we have the 5 years global warranty, right? And they can charge up to 15% yearly, additional for this. What is more about the warranty required by law, right? And we want to stretch this to 10 years in the coming years. And this, I mean, the manufacturer still can charge money for these more years, but it will be transparent to you. So for this model, I pay this much fee for warranty, and for this model, I pay this much. So you can add it to the purchase cost. And then you really have a total cost for the next 10 years. And it also, so it forces the manufacturer to reduce this additional cost price because consumers easily can compare them, right? So they have to think, calculate, I can do it better in this or this way. So they use calculation tools. And when you have a product with a 10 years warranty, you still can sell it easily for a good value after 6 years because the product will not drop in price because you know the software is maintained, you have spare parts, and you already pay the fee. Right?
So the challenge is to make it an advantage over other companies. So a selling proposition.
Yes. But also for the producers is an advantage because they know not after 3-4 years you dump the notebook and you buy it from the competition because you already have it from this brand and you will stay with them for many years. So it's not a loose situation because we extend the warranty. Right? It's just a different model, but a sustainable model, I think.
Okay, that's it from the audience up to now. Back to Kai.
Thank you. So let's jump in because you were talking about repairability and you were talking about reusability, and these solutions that both of you presented, they would really make this easier, right? And when we are talking about products, we in many cases think about like a table. Okay, I buy this table and now it's my table. But in many cases, in the circular economy, it makes sense to rethink and to have a different business model. Maybe, Andre, could you explain what new opportunities there can be?
In regards to circular economy, circular thinking?
Yes, for business models with your solutions.
For now, we haven't implemented circularity index or something because it's a complex task. Also, when talking about these business models, I guess it's also kind of a regulation as well, right? To set it clear for everybody that when you design products that could be in the end of life recycled again, it's beneficial, right? Or I don't know if you have right now it's only a market advantage if you're able to produce products that are repairable or recyclable. And I guess in general, when talking about this model of circularity, we don't have as a society this value for this circularity thinking right now. It's all about fast, cheap, and linear, I would say. Maybe it's all about mindset, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's often about mindset change.
Yeah, so we were talking a lot about tools, and of course, there are people who work with these tools, and as we learned today, also a fool with a tool is still a fool. So I guess the company, the corporate culture is also important, right, Alessandro?
Well, about foolishness, you mean? Sometimes, yes. But if you allow me, I wanted to add something on this business models, and I will get back to the culture aspect for sure. How can, for example, digital product passport enable also new business models or a circular business model? At the very basic level, and thanks to company like TCO, for example, which will certify that, a digital product passport will enable the consumer to say, okay, this is 50% recycled content, and I can trust it, right? and the other one, the other product similar is only 20% or 10%. So this is the very basic level of support, right? So just transparency. The other level of support could be, you heard of this health, status of health of a battery, right? Think about having this information available for a used battery. Suddenly, a used battery is different from another used battery, and then one can command a higher value in the second life, right? So that's a different business model. Another, you could go even into pay-per-use type of business models where you have loyalty, right? Forever. I mean, I pay a company to use a product for my entire life. I don't know if everybody would like that, but it could be something, it could be a business model which could be enabled digitally by tools like the digital product passport or other tools. Mm-hmm. And now back to your questions on culture. I mean, data culture is important. So nothing of what we have discussed today can work without a company having a solid data culture. So if you don't collect data, you don't store data, you don't harmonize them, forget about all what we have just said.
It's a treasure.
Exactly. And
it's the fuel. We heard it
right,
before. It's
yeah,
fuel.
Exactly. That's definitely one thing that I would say, right? I guess does it address your questions?
Yes, of course. It was a really simple question, and that was good answer to this. And
Kai, I'm sorry, but talking about culture, I'd like to dive in here. It's a direct question for Andrew. You mentioned that the Green Digital Twin is eternal product, but should be available for others. And the question is, will it be a new revenue stream for Siemens, or will you make this available for free?
That's a good question. I can't answer this right now. Actually, this is our first step to trying to externalize our tool. So, I mean, nothing is for free, right? So it's somehow we
paid
will
with data.
Not with us, I guess.
So, but you take the question back to the office and discuss
yes,
it. So
yeah,
it's obviously been of
actually
interest.
it is not fully decided where we go outside or not. We are testing out how is the feedback of our tool, and is it necessary for other companies? That's why I think we're not at this state yet.
Too early to say.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I can provide an example there on the externalization of tools. So as BSF, we have developed some years ago a PCF calculation tool, so a digital carbon accounting tool, which is called SCOT. And we were roughly 5 years ago in a question, do we keep it for us as a unique value, right? We can determine the carbon footprint of all our products in an automated fashion, certifiable fashion, and so on and so forth. Or do we bring into the market to perhaps foster standardization of data and enable other companies to calculate in the same way we do product carbon footprint for chemical product. And in fact, we took that decision to externalize that SCOT tool. Now you don't find this tool in the market because we immediately found out that BSF cannot be a credible software company. So forget about this, but we had this nice tool with some IP attached to it. So we license out the IP of the tool to software enterprises, enabling them to package let's say a marketable software tool to calculate product carbon footprint. And now actually in the meantime we have a license out to 4 companies, and there is quite a number of chemical enterprises, also competitors of BSF, right, which are using similar tools as ours, basically, to determine product carbon footprint. So it's a way to do it. It doesn't need to be for free, right? I mean, if something comes for free,
That's
most likely as there is a hook somewhere, right? So, and actually, what is the incentive of creating something new if you give it for free? So that
A place in heaven, of course. No.
Okay.
But they probably will find it out next year.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'll ask you the same question
Okay.
again, and we'll see. Great.
Thank you.
So
I'd like to ask the next question to you, Martin. Because we have your solution to see whether a product is sustainable or not, which is the TCO label, and it's like binary. Product does have this label or not. And we have passports, digital twins, with a lot of information. So if I'm a consumer and I want to buy a laptop and there are two laptops, and they both have the label, so you can't help me in that
Yeah, very good point.
situation? Or?
We also get this question from procurements. Say, okay, then I need to make a rating, right? So currently now we have some of the data we collected already public. Right? For example, the energy consumption. Then you really can see this model has this much and this much, this yearly energy consumption value. So you can differentiate. Or, for example, the post-consumer recycled material, both plastic and others, is also, for example, public. And the idea is in the coming years to make available all data. So when you want to choose a product, then you can go in these filters and say, oh, I want to have at least 10% less consumption. And then the Energy Star require, or I want to have at least 65. I think the highest now we have is 70-something% post-consumer recycled plastic. So you can say, oh, I want this, and you can set, and then from our database it will spill out these and these models, comply, and then you can make your selection. And this is also driving manufacturers to improve these values, because as you mentioned now, they pass, and that's fine with us. I mean, it's not easy to pass. It's not the lower requirement; they are already high. But then there's even more, incentive to go beyond this value, and we hope.
Yes. Yes. So this binary criterion, label or not, is also an advantage really for the customer. It's easier to understand, right? Because Alessandro, if we look at a digital product passport, there's so much information, and it can be hard to really find the most important factors, right? So how will the consumer be able to handle with it?
Maybe I add one example which is easier to understand. For example, you make the Abitur or something, you pass, right? But then you say, oh, I want to have a better candidate. So you ask the Zeugnis, or what is it called, and you look the grades, right? And then you can make additional judgment. Right? I think it's similar.
Yeah.
So to pass this is minimum requirement, and then you have. Sorry.
But I think that could be an area of development for other software products upcoming, right? So you have the passport with all the data, right? That's visible to a certain user or persona. But then, as you rightly say, the man on the street, or even an expert sometimes, may have difficulty to understand now, is 2 product carbon footprint, 2 kilograms CO2 equivalent per kilogram, good or bad? Or is then 2 and then water footprint this high? Understand the trade-off, right?
Yeah.
So a normal person will not be able to do that. Let's be honest. So there will be a lot of room for education, but also educational tools, or tools which extract the data from the digital product passport and then do some aggregation and enable the user to understand what is behind the data.
Okay, so in that case, I'm thinking about the nutrition's example given before. For example, people understand that sugar is not good in general. So companies found a way to use other names and really find these loopholes how to put in sugar without writing sugar. So for a digital product passport, I guess you would, after a while, you would have to really adjust for these loopholes to to really close them, right? So how's the plan for that?
Okay, first of all, it should be quantitative and measurable, right? So if you start to make it vague and qualitative, then of course you expose this to misuse, right, and abuse, like different word. So the standards and the harmonization behind should be set very clear what the definition is. But you're right, it may be that with time you will realize that perhaps there are loopholes in the determination method, right, which allow people to say a number, which, however, is not good either, right? So the methodology will also evolve with time, as also all the ISO standards that Andre has shown in his slides. It's not that they are there forever. I mean, there is also the 14067 is under revision now.
Yes.
And because people realize that what you have now is not fit for purpose and needs to be upgraded. Yeah?
Okay, I would just ask one last question to Andre, because we were talking about sustainable product design, and now we have these solutions for existing products. So how can, for example, the green digital twin could help a designer to make a product more sustainable?
Yeah, actually, we are advancing in this direction because transparency gives you a very good basis and also trust to the consumer, right? When we are calculating precisely and we have good databases, at the end, the consumer will understand this. That's what I believe. And now, this is our task to translate the transparency to the designers, or to the first step, right? When the products are designed. We are actually the transparencies after the product is existing. And we need to learn from existing products and put this knowledge to new products. Exchanging materials, exchanging supplier that are using better, efficient manufacturing processes. Step by step, I would say.
Okay, and this is a learning process, so it takes time. And in my understanding, it's a good motivation for companies to start early with this process.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Kai, may I add something, because you mentioned the sugar, which triggered something. So we also experience this. They use a lot of chemicals in IT products. So we know that the workers at the factories, they get exposed, they get sick, maybe not immediately, after years, they don't get compensated because they cannot trace it back to the work. So what we experience is then this chemical is forbidden and is replaced by another one, which is maybe less toxic or more toxic, we don't know. It's a question mark. Right? So what TCO excited, we have an accepted substance list, ASL, and on this list, we only allow the manufacturers to use chemicals from this list, right? So it's a white list. These chemicals are screened before, green screen, maybe you heard. So you can use these chemicals. If you as a manufacturer want to add another chemical which is not on the list, you have to pre-test it at independent, you know, like TÜV. If TÜV say, okay, that's not toxic, it put on the list, and all manufacturers can use it, so they also benefit from each other. So to close these loopholes, like no sugar, but there's something else we don't know, is it good or not? Okay.
Yeah, I always have the bad exercise to tell everybody that they're over and the time is over. So thank you very much for your time. And before you go, I have a last question which I would like to answer you very short and finish the sentence. Sustainable product design is
possible,
achievable.
Our future.
So great. So thank you very much. Please give a big applause to our panel.